Welcome everyone here, and I'd like to introduce our presenter today. We are fortunate to have an expert in the field with us today. We've got Michael Hines. He's here from Nelson County in Kentucky. Michael actually answered my email a couple weeks ago, and I said, Michael, people want to hear from our MITs in the field. Would you be interested? And he said yes. So today you're in for a treat. Michael, I look forward to it.
All right. Well, good afternoon, everybody. Glad everybody could make it. Here's just some general information about myself as we get started. Like she said, I'm with the New Haven School at Nelson County Public Schools. And there's my email address. Then a little bit about me as we get ready. I've been a teacher in Nelson County for 13 years. I've been a math intervention teacher for 5 years through the MAF grant. The program that I've been trained under is Assessing Math Concepts. We call it AMC. It follows the Developing Number Concepts books and activities with Kathy Richardson. Much like most of the intervention programs, it's the AMC part is the assessment piece, and then we use the DNC, the Kathy Richardson books, to prescribe activities and put them together. And the activities across all the different intervention programs are mostly very, very similar, and some are the same with maybe a little name change to them, but they're all looking for mostly the same outcomes. A little bit about myself there. I love spending time with the family. We like camping, boating. I coach a lot of my children in sports. We play a lot of board games, cards, jigsaw puzzles. We watch a lot of movies and eat a lot of food. So just a little bit about myself there for you. As I said earlier, I do the AMC program as part of the MAF grant here in Kentucky. It is intended to provide developmentally appropriate diagnostic assessment and intervention services. And so those are the AMC and Developing Number Concept programs that I use. Today's agenda. The bulk of today is about what is my role as an MIT in this never before seen challenge that we're facing right now. We're going to just very, very briefly look at the 8 math practices. I'm going to talk about some things that I've done for this, including some videos on content, card games, and then I'd like to get some feedback on some distance number talks, some digital number talks, possibly some things to do there. So moving on. So in starts, with when this all started, we were looking at activities and trying to keep the 8 math practices in mind. And really, as this has gone on for me, we try to keep this in focus for everything, because the 8 math practices really are applicable in all content areas, and they're also applicable pretty much in anything we do in a lot of cases. A lot of problem solving, a lot of using tools appropriately for what you're trying to accomplish and reasoning and things. So keeping all these things in mind was important when trying to figure out what we were going to send home for these NTI days. So when this all began, we all just were kind of under the feeling of, this is probably going to be a couple weeks and we'll be back. I mean, we were already using the NTI days in our district, so we had some experience with using them, just not quite on that large of a scale, only 2 to 3 days at a time. So the question was, what in the world do we send home? What do we do here? So my role in the beginning was a lot about helping the teachers try to figure out, where do we go from here? What are we sending them? Are we sending them a review? Are we sending them new content? What are we doing, and how do we present it to them? So in the beginning, when we thought it was just a few weeks, a lot of paper was sent home. We are one-to-one. However, in our rural area, internet connectivity can be a big problem. So we were sending a lot of paper home. And my job in the beginning was really assisting that process and coming up with activities and things to do. Now, once we figured out this was going to be a lot longer than 2 weeks, I really looked at it a lot differently, in the sense of, our district took the thought of less is more approach, really not wanting to continue sending things home as much in that bulk. So we were trying to figure out more innovative ways to get in, to reach out to these kiddos as best that we could. So one of the things that I began to do was put together some videos. These are videos that are shared at a particular time. They're scheduled on Facebook. They're on our school's Facebook page, is how they go out. And so I started off I just wanted to come up with things that people can do at home, and not just the kids I work with, but in general. What are some things you can use that you've already got at home? There's no need to go out and purchase anything, buy anything, just look for things around the house. So I started off here. I started off with some card games, and I did a couple videos. I did one for kindergarten and first grade, and I did one for second and third grade. Well, actually second through fifth grade. So I was going to show you guys just a quick little short clip here of the primary card games video. Get this going. Morning, New Haven families. Mr. Hines here today to look at some ways to have fun with math at home using cards, maybe some board games. Today we're going to take a look at some card games for some younger kiddos in the kindergarten and first grade range. We're going to talk about using those 8 math practices I've been talking about, such as perseverance, strategically using tools, structure of numbers, critiquing reasoning. All those things can be factored into any of these games we're going to take a look at today. First one we're going to take a look at is called Speed Make 10, or for our younger players, could be Speed Make 5. Basically, took a deck of cards, and I sorted out into 2 suits. Our aces are going to count as 1s. Our jacks, in this case, are going to count as 0s. So for me and a partner to play, basically when we say go, it's about looking and finding ways to make 10 in this. So if I grab 9 aces, that goes to my pile. And then I keep going to my partner who's also playing against me. They keep going as well. And then in the end, we see who's most cards in that order. If I do Speed Make 5, then I would take cards out and only have perhaps ace through 5 and the jack, so that I always keep 0. It's very important to keep 0 involved in these games. Another game I have over here is called 3x3 Bingo. It's 3x3 because I used 2 suits, hearts and clubs. You can use more suits, more cards, make it 4x4. But essentially, it's just playing bingo. And this is a lot about number identification for our younger kiddos. If you flip the card and it was a 7, and then I would look at my set. I have a 7, so I can flip it over. This person. Okay. So that was just a small clip of the video itself. So some things that I shared in there, I have a whole list here of the particular games I had on there. And really, my favorite one is typically is Uno, just because Uno really lends itself to making combinations. When you go to add those cards up after you complete a hand, it's about, looking for your combinations of 5s and 10s and multiples of 10s to add those cards up. So that was really one of my favorites, and that was at the end of the video. So right here, I was just wanting to ask you guys a question and see how are you all being innovative in the digital landscape right now with getting things out there. So I'll open that up to you guys.
One thing I'm going to do for a lot of my children don't have internet capabilities. I've got a list of their addresses from Infinite Campus, and I'm going to send each of them a game with specific directions with a little note for me in the letter as well. I thought that would be something to look them. At least I'm thinking about them and make sure that the game is differentiated to their level that they are.
Nice, thank you. Thank you. Earlier when I was talking about the amount of paperwork we were sending home and stuff, that was our original intent, was because, we sent paperwork out, but nobody thought about the logistics of collecting that paperwork and collecting it right now when, it's obviously not sanitized or anything. So then it became, well, how do we get this paper back? Or how do we even get it to them? And so they started mailing things home just as a school. They started when they had to issue a new set of work, they started mailing them home, and they spent an enormous amount of money on just a few classrooms. So, as far as the school-wide goes, that became that's not really going to work. But individually, that is something that I've looked at, and we'll talk about here toward the end about get some more ideas just like that I was looking into possibly doing.
Michael, I think you're onto something with these little snippet videos in the world of TikTok and the world of kind of video we're all looking for things. I think your school there in Nelson County is really innovating because parents will be looking for those sorts of things. Again, internet access is an issue, but somehow when you've got a phone and you have that ability to look on Facebook to get information, or look in Class Dojo, or the other ways that you guys are getting stuff out there, I thought
Sure.
it was great the way you presented that in an easy way, and it's also a snippet long enough for people to be able to wrap their mind around and go back to.
Sure. Thank you.
Hey, can I show you guys how overwhelming this is as a parent? Do you see the thickness of this? This was my son's NTI packet for 2 weeks. And so we've been doing it online, but they gave us a paper copy just in case. But when she brought this out to me as a parent, it overwhelmed me before I even showed it to him. So this is amazing. The snippets of one little rich game that you can play and incorporate the mathematical practices, and maybe have the parents ask them a few questions about what they're doing, is a lot more less threatening as a parent and enjoyable. So I think that we could focus that on. I just wanted to share that with you guys about how scary that was for me as a parent.
Yeah, and that's definitely a concern, that especially as this has gotten longer and longer and longer, is eventually, you don't want to overwhelm them to the point that they're not going to, they kind of quit, because it is a lot, and you're kind of asking babysitters and grandparents and moms and dads and everybody to be a teacher for 8 hours a day, and that's really not doable. They've got enough to worry about on their plate right now, besides just that all day. So I agree 100%. Thank you for sharing that stack of paper.
I'm not down in the school at all. They're doing the best they can. I didn't want to think
Yeah.
that. I just
Oh, no.
wanted to share that. It
Yeah.
was intimidating as a parent.
Yes. Yeah. And again, yeah, I'm just like you. I have 3 children of my own, and I look at it too from a parent perspective when we're doing those things, because that's very important to keep that in perspective.
If I could jump right in too, Michael, and kind of just add on to what Julie was saying. I had a parent to call and say, my kid's crying every day because, the school had sent worksheets. And so I think we're seeing, parents are hopefully seeing how difficult it is to get a child to just to sit down and memorize a bunch of stuff.
Sure.
Because, she said, could you please send me some of those cool things that you do with your kids? Maybe this would help him. So, maybe, there's some positive in all this with the parents working with their kids, because they too will see how difficult it is for them to memorize everything. And when they do something, they're still learning, and it's in a fun and enjoyable way.
Absolutely. Thank you. Thank you.
Mr. Hines, it's Mrs. Duncan, and
Hey,
I just
Duncan.
wanted to share that I'm also doing the videos, and it's just a chance for kids to get to still see me since I can't see them, and just to let them know that I love them and I'm thinking of them, and to continue the teaching, because they need, I know less is more, but my heart is kids and getting, continuing that normalcy for them. So that's what I wanted to say.
Perfect. Thank you, Ms. Duncan. All right. Let's look at I've got a resource here I wanted to share. This is the Handout, and it's from Stanford University. It is basically, it's a booklet they've put together with family card games for kindergarten up through 1st grade, especially, with very great directions and questioning. And then it even starts off here. They have a video link you can watch, but it starts off here with identifying math skills. It identifies the questions you can ask. It identifies what your goals are here, and just some ideas of how to implement these things. And I thought this was a very valuable resource that I stumbled upon when working with the card games. So that is in your handouts to have. Let's go back to here. Moving on to the next thing. So in the beginning, I started out doing the videos on just games. And then I thought, there's some content out there that we could really use help on all the time at home. That's real world. That's things that unfortunately tend to get pushed to the side a little bit as we focus on computation and things of that nature. So I shot some videos on, I shot a video on time, and I shot a video on money. With the one on time, we constructed a math tool, a clock in the beginning, and then I go through the progression of kindergarten through 5th grade, and we talk about what each grade looks like and some ideas. With money, we did the same thing. We talk about the progression of money, where it starts in kindergarten with the identification of the coins. And then in first grade, we're looking at identification of the coin as well as recognizing the value of each coin. And then we go on into second grade and third grade where we start adding cents together. We start adding dollars together. So I'll just show you a short snippet of this video and see what you think on this one. Hey guys, it's Mr. Hines here again with another math lesson. Today we're going to focus on money and how it progresses from kindergarten up through fifth grade. So to begin with, in kindergarten, we focus on the actual identification of the names of the coins. So in kindergarten, our focus is to know that this is a quarter, this is a dime, this is a nickel, and this is a penny. That's what our goal is in kindergarten. Now, when we go into first grade, we not only need to identify those coins, but we also need to identify the value of each of those coins. So in first grade, we're not only talking about their names, but we're also looking at this as 25 cents, 10 cents, 5 cents, and 1 cent. We're using words to describe cents. We don't start off right away with the symbol. We start off actually spelling out the word. So we write the number 1 and the word cents. And eventually we kind of evolve those words into the symbol, which is the C with the line down through it. So some games we could do in kindergarten and first grade, just to kind of get some practice with the coins. A lot of people have a bowl of change laying around the house, and just grab some random coins. It doesn't have to be anything specific. One thing we can do is you can take some plates. You can I labeled each one. This was a quarter, 25 cents, a dime, 10 cents. I have a penny, 1 cent, and a nickel, 5 cents. So depending upon the age, if it's kindergarten, I might just write the word. If it's first grade, I could write them both. So I just spread these out on the floor. And then after they're spread out on the floor, then they could reach in here, pull out coins, maybe give them a handful and see how quickly they could sort them on the plate. Make a game out of it, because then maybe you could do the same thing and see who had the fastest time. Another thing we can do in first grade or kindergarten, I've got a muffin pan here, and I took some cupcake liners. And for kindergarten, I could just write the names, and I could have as many on here as I want and have them sort them. All right. So let's go back to here. So those were, again, just some games I was putting together. You can see it's a 4.5 minute video that just kind of, it's all about the progression. So I felt like doing the progression is important that me, if I'm a parent of a kindergartner and we're working, say, with money and my child is just blowing it up, identifying the coins, well, I know from this video, I kind of have an idea of what he should be doing next. Instead of me maybe taking that and jumping 2 or 3 steps ahead, I can look at this progression and only move ahead to the next step. And then when we get that one, then I'm going to keep going, you know. And so it allows parents to make decisions on the progression of these content for their students, while hopefully just using some things around the house and hopefully having a little fun and trying to make games out of these things. I think that's pretty important stuff there. Any questions on or comments on the content videos?
Mr. Hines, I was just thinking about another way would be to play, especially for kindergarten, is go fish. Make some cards with just the dimes and the pennies, have the picture of them. And that way the kids are practicing calling the name. Do you have a dime? And no, go fish. So, you know, that way they're practicing seeing the coin and then calling its name.
Sure.
So, you know, the kids would enjoy that, I think.
Thank you. Thank you.
Michael, I think you had mentioned to me to remind everyone that this is about the time of the year we think about how math paces, and those coin identifications and that sort of measurement is about this time of the year. And so that's the new learning that students are missing. And it's always important then to circle back with that, because that's one of the things that the parents feel very comfortable with.
Sure.
Yeah, the other thing I noticed when I worked with first graders this year with the coins is that knowing the heads and the tails, and to realize that the U.S. Mint has changed what the coin looks like. So you could grab 4 nickels and they all could look different. So
yes.
That made it even more difficult in some ways for some of those struggling learners.
What a good point. Thank you. Okay. All right. So the next step that I'm looking at trying to get into now, we already do, we now have regularly scheduled meetings with the classes where a third grade class meets every day at 10 o'clock on Google Meet. And, you know, lucky to get 10, maybe 12 kiddos can get on there. But it is an opportunity for the kiddos to get on there. It's a big opportunity for them to see each other, which is a big deal right now for them getting to see each other. They can still interact with each other online, and they get to see their teacher. And I make it a point to get into all those, just to get in there. Hey, Mr. Hines is here, and you know, and sometimes they're doing things like sharing their favorite pet, or sharing a stuffed animal they have, or talking about something they did the day before. There's always something that they've kind of been assigned to make. You know, when you come in, this is what we're going to do today. And so I'm trying to take that a step further. And I thought if I could do some virtual number talks through things like Google Meet, since our district is a Google district, Google Meet's probably where I will start with. And then there's also things like we're using today, the Zoom, which works out great. So I'm looking to do that with some of the small groups. The thing that, you know, I really didn't think about in the beginning when we started doing a lot of these meetings online with the kiddos is the whole idea of confidentiality, making sure you kind of forget about those things sometimes when you get on the internet world, when you're not face to face looking at them in the classroom. So those are things to remember. And so I just put a little a link to, I found some good tips on PC Mag, just about some things to help ensure security and confidentiality when you're on different things on the internet, trying to hold meetings and stuff, which has become a big platform right now, is all these things like Zoom and Google Meet. So I do have a question before I get on. Has anyone been able to implement any virtual digital number talks? And if so, what advice could you offer moving forward with this?
Sarah, we'd love for you to unmute your mic. It looks like Sarah, our friend from Arkansas, she said she gave it a shot, but she struggled with it. Sarah, talk to us a little bit about that.
Hey, well, I just joined in with one of my teachers, and we didn't do a traditional number talk. We actually did an estimastory, and it was one that Molly Rawding made based on Steve Wyborny's work. And it went really well. Wait time is really hard virtually. It's hard normally. Virtually, it made it a lot harder. And I just struggled with how to notate their thinking because it was in a Google slide and you can't draw, and I'm used to having my smartboard where I can write. So the teacher and I have a scheduled meeting tomorrow to figure out, you know, what we can do to make it go even better next time. But that's where we are.
Great, thank you. Thank you. Yeah, I was trying to decide myself, you know, can I hold a dry erase board up here in front of the camera and do things, or, you know, so I'm kind of leaning toward, for at least to start off, I was thinking things like the math flips that we looked at in the very beginning of these Zoom sessions. So I was really thinking about starting there and seeing, just to see what kind of participation, because I'm kind of like you, I'm not sure how this participation piece is going to work back and forth on the computer. So it is a little bit different than getting to sit at my table. So thank you for that feedback. I appreciate that.
Michael, I was Cindy Ossing. I was thinking that very same thing.
Yeah, I was just getting ready to say, go ahead, Kelly.
Yeah, yep. She's going to talk to us about Google Jamboard, and then Jennifer tells us that there's a whiteboard in Zoom. So I'd love to hear both of those.
So Google Jamboard is just one of your options when you're in Google. Just like you start a new Google document, Google Slides, you can do a Google Jamboard. It's got its pros and cons. It's limited in some ways, but it's really versatile in others. It is an interface that's going to let you draw. It lets you highlight. It lets you put in an image. It's got little Post-it notes. So if you put things on Post-it notes, then those can be moved around. There's not a lot of options for text, but I was just thinking about, in this case, you could do like an image of a 100 board, and then the Google Jamboard would let you cross things out and to make some notes.
Okay, thank you. I hadn't heard of Jamboard.
Well, and one of the things that's good about that is it's embedded in the Google suite of things. So if your district is running from Google Classroom and from the Google suite, it's there. So it's free and it's already existing in what you have.
Okay, perfect. Thank you. Thank you very much. What about the Zoom whiteboard? I see that on the chat box there. Anybody use the Zoom whiteboard?
I haven't used it yet. I've just been told by others that it's available. I'm still on that learning curve of how to do my interventions online. I finally figured out because Google Meet or Google Hangouts is what I use with my students. How to share the screen, A, so I can still see my students, and B, they can see what I'm working on. I was successful today. So I'm still learning.
Perfect. Perfect. Thank you. Thank you. I hadn't heard of either one of those, so I'm definitely checking those out before next week. So just moving ahead, my next steps, of course, we're on spring break this week. So my next steps for next week would be the virtual number talks. I'm gonna try one. I'm gonna start with the math flips, and then I'm definitely digging into Jamboard and Zoom Whiteboard. I'd like to do some more game videos, in particular with possibly with dice. I know there's lots of games that can be played with dice, and something that lots of people have at home. I'd also like to see if I could figure out through using one of these online platforms how to maybe have a time say, hey, at 11:30 on Wednesday, who wants to sign up and play a particular card game with me? You know, maybe figure out a way that we could play some of those games that I had on my video, or dice games, and maybe we could figure out a way to play them together on the virtual platform, just to kind of opportunity to play against Mr. Hines kind of thing, beat Mr. Hines. Also, I was looking into doing something like have a number of the day on Facebook, or send it out on Dojo to everyone. And then, because this way I'm eliciting, you know, my kindergartners, maybe they give me, they share a collection of something that they did with that number. Maybe the number today is, say, 11. And they give me a collection of 11. Well, then it's got something for all the grade levels, because the older kids maybe produce a number problem, or it could be they went outside and found 11 of these, or just different situations. Again, things that they don't have to have paper and pencil for, things they can just do with what got at the house and come up with very creative ways. Because the kids have enjoyed, especially the young kids. I've gotten a lot of pictures from kiddos. I've got a couple that send me a picture every morning when their kiddo gets up and starts doing the math work. And I love them. I love those pictures. I mean, it's not that they're doing math that I love them. It's the communication piece. Because, you know, right now that's probably the most important piece right now with the stay-at-home situation that we're in. It's just being able to communicate and see it and share what's going on. And then the virtual small groups, which is would be similar to the number talks, is I'm looking to possibly try to do some of my small group virtually, maybe even pose a question at a time just to get them thinking before we get in there. But of course, spend some time at that time. My thoughts are with that time, it's not all just get in math, but it'll be some of get in, let's connect. Let's talk about what we're doing at home, how's things going, everything going all right. And then we'll sneak in a little math under the radar on them there without them knowing it. But so that'd be kind of my thoughts on that moving forward. Does anyone have any thoughts or suggestions on the virtual groups, or the number of the day, or if not, these were some of my resources that I pulled from that you saw throughout the slides. Ucube.org, which I'm sure most of us are familiar with or have at least seen it at some point, is a great resource with videos and things that demonstrate some games that parents can do at home with their kiddos focused on math. It's got lots of ideas on there, lots of great ideas. And then moving forward, tomorrow we have Thompson, who I've seen on here today. And then we have Jackie Dameron on Friday coming up. So it's going to be great stuff. And then, of course, the KCM website, always available with tons and tons and tons and tons and tons of resources. And the schedule, and this is how you get on to the different 2 o'clock Zoom sessions each day. And last but not least, here's my contact information. Along with our Facebook page is the New Haven School. If you do try to get on there, I'm not 100% sure that it's not invitation. I'm not sure, but it is important that you use the New Haven School, because New Haven School is a school in Boone County. So we are the New Haven school. So, and I believe that is it. Thank you, guys.
Michael, we thank you so much. Michael spent hours and hours really thinking about this and trying to determine what all he was going to do to share with everybody in that short 30 minutes. This is the time where we give him his props. In there, Funda said, thank you for all the great ideas. Amy Duncan says you rock it always, and she enjoys working or misses working with you. So it looks as though you got some people logging in that were fans. I wanted to say how much I appreciated the videos, that you are fearless with regards to video, and this tends to be the day and time to do that. So just videotape yourself, throw it up there, and that will be a great way to help our parents. Lots of thank yous. Lots of, I see friends from across the United States in there saying thank you to you, because those resources really help. And again, you know, folks log in, Michael, and they're thinking about it in two ways. Sometimes it's about being a teacher, and other times it's about being a parent. So lots of resources. Yeah, lots of resources.
Hi, Amy in Vermont. We're glad to have you with us.
Absolutely. So let's see, Dee, that's Wisconsin, North Carolina, Vermont, Arkansas. You got it. So we are becoming quite the national afternoon. I do have to tell you, 2 o'clock is a great time to log in with us. Just the right amount of information from experts across Kentucky, like Michael Hines. So we want to thank you guys for joining us. Tomorrow, you won't want to miss it. 2 o'clock tomorrow, same place. See ya.